Next month could be the month where everything does change for XDC. And the reason why, well, we're going to be addressing it in this video. But on top of that, I do still think that XDC is one of the most valuable networks in this space that we could be focused on. And the reason why I say that is because of how cheap XDC actually is. And it's also a very undervalued network because a lot of people actually avoid it because they don't actually know about it, or maybe they just don't care to look into XDC because they're more so focused on XRP or even XLM, etc. So let's actually talk a little bit about this. Number one, let's take a look at the ecosystem. The ecosystem around XDC has been erupting over the last couple months. And this is actually very exciting to see because, when we go back to like 2021, for an example, XDC's ecosystem was pretty shy. It's actually very similar to, Hedera. I've talked about Hedera on this channel many times. And one thing that I've always made clear is that if we go all the way back to 2021, Hedera was very boring. There wasn't a lot happening on the network. Today, that's a completely different story. And the same goes for XDC. Now, when we think about the actual network itself, about 805 million total transactions, 8.7 TPS, nothing too crazy, obviously, but transactions are well over 700,000 almost every single day. So this is pretty good for a network that's undercover, overlooked. And I think that this is really just the starting point, right? I still think that we're at the starting point for a lot of these networks, especially when they're focused on use cases like trade finance, for an example, or even tokenization initiatives. So I do think that we have a great opportunity in front of us, especially at a time where the market cap for XDC at the time that I am recording this is sub $1 billion. I mean, when we compare it to XRP, for an example, that is over a 100x if we mirror the overall market cap of XRP. Now, do I think that XDC is going to hit that market cap this year or next year? Not exactly, but I still think that it has the same ROI potential. But outside of this, let's take a quick look at what's happening around XDC. So first and foremost, we do have that event that I talked about in a previous video as well, upcoming. We're inching closer to the date, June 18th. This is XDC Network is once again thrilled to partner with the Digital Economy Council of Australia as a sponsor of DEC or DECon 2025, the premier event for blockchain, Web3, and DLT leaders shaping the digital economy. Here's how XDC will be powering the agenda across 3 impactful days. Number 1 is, supply chains and provenance. Number 2 is DLT panel on digital money rails. Number 3 is executive roundtables on stablecoins. And then, of course, we do have the demo workshop, which is around trade digitalization experience. So some pretty heavy discussions happening at this event. And on top of this, right, if we actually go to the link, we could see what XDC will be fully focused on at this event. So the trade digitalization experience, AI, DLT, the new normal, demo workshop. Now, on the left side, we do have the Trade Digitalization Experience Workshop introduces businesses and local exporters to the transformative power of AI and DLT, promoting improved supply chain efficiencies and redefining international trade practices through a MLETR lens as the emerging new normal for our trade and logistic sectors. And then we also have the about section of this event. We already know exactly what it's about because I just went over it. But this is definitely going to be a pretty heavy discussion, especially at a time where, we do know XDC is at the heart of the trade, finance revolution. And by the way, a big shout out to a good friend of mine and somebody that actually, works closely with me on the Web3 Alert, Tokenizer, because he did put out a great post regarding trade finance and the finance gap. We have here, trade finance backs $25 trillion plus in capital flow annually, but 4 billion paper documents, 7 to 10 day delays, and a $2.5 trillion finance gap choke the system. Digitalization of global trade isn't optional. It's the only way forward, and XDC is positioned at the heart of that shift. Now, we do have here from McKinsey and Company, and let me open this up in a new tab just so that you guys can read it with me. So we have here that the International Chamber of Commerce, the ICC, which by the way, the ICC is working closely with XDC. They've been really spotlighting XDC and Trade Phoenix around trade finance digitalization, but we do have projects that paperless trade could create $267 billion of additional exports across G7 countries compared to base forecasts by 2026. And the World Trade Organization, the WTO, which also, by the way, spotlighted XDC, reports that implementing the Trade Facilitation Agreement, TFA, could increase global trade by between $750 billion and $1 trillion a year. Now, the TFA aims to reduce the trade cost of import and export activities and accelerate the clearance of goods by setting digitalization standards such as electronic data submission between agencies and the use of digital signatures, which we already know is made possible through DLT. This is a huge initiative, and it's a huge confirmation of what's to come, especially from a company like McKinsey and Company. Now, outside of this, we also do have from Tokenizer, because he did really kind of support his idea that XDC is at the heart of this shift, which we already knew, was the case because of all of the research that we've done around XDC with trade finance. But this really kind of puts it into perspective for anyone that is still missing the point. We have top 10 reasons why the world of trade finance giants are flocking to XDC. MLETR approved by ITFA, the UN, the World Trade Organization, etc. ISO 20022 payments and TradFi compatible. Initio proven utility by banking giants. Proven compliance with multiple governments building. Hybrid public and private blockchain flexibility. Network speed and efficiency for E-Trade. Only public DLT in ITFA and TFD/DNI initiative. Doc first tokenization. LOCs, bills, invoices. Solve a TradeFin gap, connecting SMEs with creditors. Proven work with FinTech DLT leader R3 Corda as well. There's an endless list of more reasons as to why giants in trade finance are beginning to not just recognize, but directly choose XDC as their answer for adopting blockchain asset tokenization. I suspect this trend will only grow with time. Global trade is being connected digitally, and XDC is at the heart of it all. And it really is, right? And tokenization on XDC is going to only accelerate all of this in a much larger way. Now, today we know XDC currently right now has about $27.61 million on it. Now, this is actually up almost 77% in the last 30 days, which we'd love to see. When we think about the actual amount of tokenized value on networks in general in this space, it's about $12.53 billion. This continues to grow slightly. It's only up about 5.63% in the last 30 days, but I do suspect that towards the end of this year, this figure will be significantly higher, and XDC will probably have a lot more money tied to it. Now, when we think about that, right, XDC right now on this list is number 14. It did quickly grow in the amount of money tapped in on it, but I am waiting for a big move that really changes the way that everyone is looking at XDC. What is that move? Well, I talked about it, right? 90 days as well. Here we have the announcement. Back in April, we are still waiting on this. 90 days is what they told us, right? First issue will take place in the next 90 days with a regulated structure. This is from Leaky and XDC Network to tokenize $500 million in RWAs in Brazil. This is a huge move that will put all eyes on XDC. Why? Because when we go back to the list, $500 million immediately puts it at number 3 on this list. ZK Sync Era, by the way, is not a layer 1. So technically speaking, this would put XDC in the number 2 spot around the largest layer 1s that has the most amount of money tapped in around RWA tokenization. That's why I'm focused on this. And 90 days, if we're thinking about this from the announcement, right, April 14th, this would put us into July. If we start to see in July this $500 million start to flood into XDC, we are going to see everything around XDC change. And then from this point, everyone is going to recognize all of the trade finance, moves that have been made. They're also going to recognize all of the connections that XDC also has as well. And this is where we start to see the market for XDC really wake up. Today, we're at about 27.61 million. The tokenization market only continues to grow. We're starting to see a lot of movement around stablecoin initiatives, which, by the way, I don't think that I need to mention that XDC does have stablecoins tapped in a big way as well. There's a lot of great moves happening around XDC that a lot of people actually aren't even aware of. Like, for example, Securitize, right? People overlook Securitize, but guys, this is a very large player. In fact, when we think about Securitize, the protocol that is being utilized by BlackRock is Securitize. For the BlackRock USD Institutional Digital Liquidity Fund, yeah, Securitize is tapped in there. And not to mention that Securitize has been powering a lot of tokenization moves. I'm waiting to see protocols be really focused on over here. I know that they said coming soon. Maybe it is actually live in terms of platforms. So I'm only seeing Wisdom Tree here. I would love to see Securitize being tracked to really kind of see how much money is tied back to Securitize, because they are a dominant force here and one of the largest protocols. Or actually, no, I could track the protocols. Like I said, Securitize is number one here, right? So this is huge. $3.5 billion out of this $23.36 billion is just on Securitize alone. So this is huge. This is why I think everyone should be paying attention to some of these protocols and the names that are already tapped in around them, like XDC. XDC already has Securitize under its belt, and also a few other big players like Mercado Bitcoin, for example. So when we do start to see the tokenization market around XDC wake up, I think everyone's going to wake up to how big XDC actually is. And also, by the way, XDC did just celebrate 6 years of mainnet. This has been, a huge, huge journey for XDC. I mean, listen, they have been accomplishing things that are very significant for not just XDC, but also for the entire industry. We actually have here that since being introduced in 2017 by XinFin, and on June 1st, 2019, the XDC network launched its mainnet, marking the beginning of a journey to revolutionize global trade, finance, payment, and settlement layer 4 enterprise and asset tokenization through enterprise-grade blockchain infrastructure. Today, we proudly celebrate 6 years of resilience, innovation, and real-world adoption. Network highlights: 798 million plus transactions processed, 89 million plus blocks produced, 261 validators decentralized globally, 1.2 million plus accounts created, 168,000 plus smart contracts deployed. Major milestones: XDC 2.0 protocol upgrade for performance and security that just happened, Solidity 0.8.23 support plus Etherscan integration, XDC Explorer v2 with NFT, AI, and real-time data, Layer 0 integration for cross-chain interoperability, account abstraction with gasless DApp experience, and then, of course, enterprise-grade integration at scale. Trusted by institutions: SBI Japan, Deutsche Telekom, Securitize, Archix, RackDAO, Leaky, and more. 500 million plus in tokenized RWAs, which is going to be happening. AU digital dollar, the Australian digital dollar, launching on XDC for payments and trade tokenization. Zanzibar blockchain sandbox and national government support. And then, of course, driving TradFi or TradeFi transformation with TradeFi.network launch plus XDC Trade Network digitizing LCs, invoices, and then, of course, e-bulls. Recognized in the UK Parliament and TFDI member. Seamless crypto to fiat off-ramping via XDC.cash with 100 plus countries. Empowering the builders: XDC Ventures Accelerator and Plug and Play, Tenity, RackDAO, 0x Camp plus XDC Forum nurturing global developer talent, RWA AI. Presence at major global events, Consensus Token 2049, WebX Asia as well. And of course, we do see the numbers down here. Again, when we think about these networks, some of these networks have great utility tied to them. It's just that the hype and speculation is not, so significant to the point where everyone is paying attention. This is why I do think that XDC is probably one of the most overlooked and undervalued projects in the space. And I think that once it gets put on the map around tokenization with that 500 million plus tokenized, push, I think everyone's going to know XDC and they're going to start to focus on it. So with that being said, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys definitely leave a like, subscribe, turn notifications on because more free content. You guys are more than welcome to follow me on Twitter and join the free Discord on the description below. And with that being said, guys, it's been Nick. Thanks for watching. Peace out.